Welcome to Future Hidden Movie Gems. Today we're going to be talking about Ted Lasso.
Hey, soccer is life. No, football. Football is life.
I can't think of a quote.
Oh, no, actually, wait, you can take that
Oh,
quote.
I got a quote.
Okay.
I'm going to have to bleep that.
No, my favorite quote is, high five, tree. Do you remember that one little moment when he's leaving her office and he's like, high five, tree?
I love when the quote I just said, but people are not going to know what it is because I bleeped it. But when all the people in the crowd are yelling it and then the people in the bar are yelling it, she's like, oh, give him another chance. And I was like,
He's basically saying, winner, winner. But never mind. Sounds
winner,
like
winner,
that,
chicken
but
dinner.
It means something else.
So today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about a movie called Ted Lasso. This movie is amazing. And I'm excited to talk about it.
TV
Oh
show.
my goodness, thank you for correcting me.
And we've only watched the first season. We do not know the second season, except for the first episode of the second season.
Yeah, and I mean, I heard, talking to some people, and they said second season isn't nearly as good.
Right.
Because this one just flows. Like, if there's ever a show that just has such great, I was going to say contention, but it's not the contention, but it's the driving...
Continuous?
It's the driving force of, what's the word you said earlier? It's like a problem.
Oh.
Like the whole issue with her...
Conflict.
Yeah, conflict. Thank you. The conflict in this is so good. And his resolution to everything is amazing. He's like the sweetest person. He's like somebody plucked straight out of the Andy Griffith Show and plopped in today's world with just all these people. And I mean, my good friend Mick, who speaks just like these people... And
he's Irish.
And he just, he's the funniest person.
Is he Irish or British?
Yeah, he's Irish.
Okay.
So he's the funniest person ever, but he's just very foul-mouthed and just very quick when it comes to humor, and also just very witty. I don't want to say mean-spirited, but
insulting?
Yes, they're very...
But that's just how they talk. They just insult each other all the time. It's
they're
fun.
just very honest, it's pretty brutal for Americans, and that's why it's so fun to see like somebody from the South, or is he from Kentucky or Missouri?
Louisiana. One of those.
Somewhere, and he's just like the sweetest, kindest person ever. And so much so, I mean, his wife feels kind of suffocated by him, which is such, she is a whole nother story. I just roll my eyes at her. She's a I just do not care for her, even in the slightest. Because Ted Lasso is the sweetest, most kind person. Everyone should... Well, everybody except my mom and sister, because there is language, some dirty humor, but goodness gracious, if this show isn't amazing. Alex recommended it to us. Thank you, Alex, because I'm so glad I watched it. It's on Apple Plus. There's 2 seasons out. I mean, you have to watch at least the first season, because that intro to the conflict is so good. Like the fact that this woman took her ex's football team, his one pride and joy, his love, and she's so mad at him for cheating on her. She wants to completely destroy the team. So she hires this football coach from America, and not football soccer, but American football, and to come and play to coach a soccer team. And she wants him to just completely destroy it.
Yeah.
Great premise. It's so much fun. And right from the get-go, I'm like, oh snap, like these two, because I could tell she was kind of playing the not interested in anybody. I'm interested about is revenge. And you just get this vibe like, ooh, this might end up being like an amazing relationship later on.
Yeah.
Because you can tell she's trying so hard to, you can tell she's just like somewhere in her, there's a sweet, kind woman trying.
But it's so deep buried down.
Yeah.
And here you have Ted Lasso, who wants to be friends and have good relationships with everyone. So yeah, you definitely know, like, oh, I think she's eventually going to soften up to him.
Oh yeah, and she's trying so hard.
Even though, yeah, she's not acting like she ever would at the beginning.
Yeah, and she's trying so hard to sabotage every situation and relationship because like he's buying her. Well, you think he's buying her the cookies, or they called biscuits.
Yes.
And she's like trying to get her secretary to find out where they can where he's buying them so that she can buy them herself and then avoid having to speak to him every morning. But he just is relentless, and it turns out, which there's so many great reveals, like that whole situation, finding out that he was the one cooking those.
The timing of that reveal was perfect.
Yes, and it was so satisfactory.
Yes.
Like, goodness gracious, if this show doesn't know how to set things up and then have an amazing payoff. Like, as soon as that happened, it was like, oh my gosh, like, I love this show. Like, there's moments like that. Like, when the very end of the first episode, when you realize her actual intention was to destroy this team, and she just talking about how she's going to completely screw over her husband, and you're like, oh man, this woman, was very badly hurt, and you can see that. And I just love that, because then it sets up a great series. You're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a fun direction that it'll take it, because Ted Lasso shows up and he's like the nicest person you've ever met on the planet.
Yeah.
And you're just... anyways, I'm talking about the entire show. Sorry.
I love it. That's perfect.
What was it like watching Tatiana, the show?
I was going to say, too, I was just talking with my parents, and they said that they also started it and they want to finish it. They watched the first... Well, they both watched the first episode, and then my dad watched the second episode, but my mom fell asleep because I guess she was tired. And honestly, it is a little slow-paced. It's not a in-your-face comedy like the ones that I typically gravitate towards the most. But I loved it. It was kind of a nice, refreshing pace. Yeah,
and speaking of the main character, like, he is playing the perfect role. It's almost like he was meant for this role, because he plays a similar role in Horrible Bosses. He plays this like sweet boss. He's pretty dirty, but in this show he's just like the nicest person on the planet. And you said he comes from a background of improv.
Yeah, like he did like graduate school studying improv. Like he really went full throttle. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, he's very quirky.
He was
goofy.
He's legit. Like he studied it academically. Okay, anyways.
Well, but this role is perfect for him. Like I said, there's certain roles that people are born to play, like Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love, and when they just lean into a certain actor's role or Uncut Gems, I'd say, is even probably his best performance. But I just love when a certain actor, it's like the director knows exactly where to put him. Some people are just so gifted to know that, and it's just this writing is so great. The first season is so solid. You kind of have an idea of where it's going, but you just enjoy the ride of the entire show. At least for me, I was enjoying every episode. And it was so funny because you kept leaning over saying that I was, oh, you're really into the show, aren't you? Because I was getting all worked up about the drama. But then later you were getting really worked up about him and his wife and that she left him. Are they saying divorce is okay?
You were saying that more than me, that you were more worked up than me.
That is not true. You were getting so worked up. It was hilarious.
You were the one that deeply hated the woman, though, the wife.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, of course. Because she just like, I mean, you're getting so upset too that she was like constantly pestering him, like he was getting texts.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
From his lawyer.
After they decided to get divorced, and then she kept texting him like multiple times in the same day, including getting her lawyer to text him to be like, did you sign those papers yet? Oh, you can actually just like sign them and then upload them right away to this website. I'm like, holy cow, that is not how the real world works. They usually they usually contest the divorce first of all.
Like I said, I think
so if he's willing to not contest it, calm down, lady.
I
Don't
think she was ready to,
start a relationship.
Yeah, and she didn't want to feel
guilty.
Yeah, and she was feeling guilty, and so she just wanted to get rid of that guilt, and so she was just like, I want to.
But still, your divorce is still not finalized right when he signs it. The judge still has to sign off on that decree. Just saying.
Yeah, but she's looking for a way to not feel guilty. That's the only thing I can come up with, because she was just literally the worst.
Yeah.
She got... I'll bleep that.
Okay, bleep that whole thing. I don't want to respond to that. I don't want to make that a conversation. Because
I joke. Okay, so...
you best be. Okay, wait, I want to say something. Because I know he has this extensive history in improv or background in improv. I was like looking... I felt like I was always looking for like, ooh, I wonder if he improvised that, this or that. I do want to say that line, one of my favorites of high five tree, I bet that was improvised, because there was just this random coat rack that looked like a tree, or maybe it was just a random decorative item that wasn't a real tree, but it was like a wood flat thing that it was in the shape of the tree, and it's right by the door, and he just thought it'd be funny to like do something funny with it on his way out. I liked that.
This is totally fish out of water. Like, one of my favorite shows is Third Rock from the Sun. Is about aliens trying to adapt to humanity. And so I love a person coming from America and traveling to another country, because I mean, obviously I've had so many similarities going from, you know, living in Argentina for 2 years and trying to adapt to that culture. Like, one of the biggest, hardest things for me was how touchy-feely they are, because I am not a very touchy person, and they're all like, all the guys kiss each other on the cheeks, and they're just constantly hugging and touching.
Like that guy in the play last night. We saw One for the Pot, and there was that one character that kissed everyone on the cheeks.
That was so
And
funny.
like, yeah, that's the thing I had to get used to in France too. They do it there as well, and I'm like, I'm not a touchy-feely person either when it comes to strangers, so it's like, ooh.
Yes, and I mean, this brought back so many memories too of living with my roommate Mick, who's from Ireland, and he is just, oh my gosh, watching him play soccer with other people is the funniest thing. Just him getting so worked up and cursing is that's priceless. And so watching this movie was such a treat, because, and you know, I ended up, one of my favorite characters was who's the guy that constantly is swearing?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's who I keep thinking of. That I want to talk about him soon. Roy,
oh my gosh. And then his relationship with the girl who you didn't like at first.
Keela, I think is her name. I really detested her character at first. I was like, she's not funny, she's crass, she's just obnoxious in so many ways. And then all of a sudden I had a 180 and I was like, okay, I really like this character. I don't know if it was all of a sudden, it was like, but it was over the course of only a couple of scenes that I was like, okay, I'm on board now.
Yeah, well, because they just, that's so good. I mean, this writing is so clever, and they really help turn the tables, and they make you really like people that are kind of detestable at first, you know, because they don't have the greatest intentions.
Like Roy, you're like, holy cow, he's such a jerk, and by the end you're like,
oh yeah, when
crying, like loving him so much.
Yeah, at the end when he oh my gosh, after he hurts himself,
that retirement moment, we were both tearing up and actually crying, and then but like keeping it to ourselves, and then I turned to him and like, I finally am seeing a tear come out of your eye.
Yeah, that was so powerful. When he was in that room, the play was ending, and they were both, you know, she is in there with him, and
I'm almost gonna cry thinking about it.
I know. He just he's becoming vulnerable. He's grown as a person. He realizes there's so much more to him than football.
Yes. And I love the whole conversation with the niece and Keela being like, niece, tell me what you think about him. And she says all these things about her uncle. And she's like, do you notice not one of the things that she said was that you're a soccer player, even though you think that's all you are. And that was a pivotal moment for him.
Yeah. There's so many moments that are just so beautiful in the show.
Yes.
And I mean, another scene that I absolutely loved was him writing a letter to the kid who also, you know, you think is detestable because he's just so in love with himself. He's so Jamie's so confident, and and then he finally breaks him down and gets him to work with as a team. And then you know, what's the main girl?
Oh yeah, that lady, Kate, Elizabeth, no, Sarah, no.
And I feel so bad. The main woman trying to sabotage the team. Anyways, she gets Jamie a transfer because she wanted to sabotage the team, and she was trying so hard to sabotage this because, you know, just when she started to become more human and started to become attached to the team, she would all of a sudden run into her ex-husband, and he would, you know, show up and say, oh, by the way, I'm getting married. Oh, by the way, she's pregnant. And then she's like, you never wanted kids. And he's like, well, not with. And then he, like, you know.
He's the worst.
He is Satan, you know, reincarnated.
Absolutely. He is diabolical. He is Satan.
And he brings out the worst in her. It's so sad because, like I said, there's so many moments. I feel like she is starting to become more. I mean, you can understand her more, and you're just like, oh, like the show totally humanizes her. And then you totally realize why she is the way she is. It's because of him. Like, he brings out the absolute worst out of her. So sad. I just love the moment when they're throwing darts and he has that great speech. Coach has got some great speeches. I like that Nathan started to become a character too.
Yeah.
Like nobody talks to me. And then he ends up becoming a coach, which is a great moment, and they give him a whistle. And there's so many great, powerful moments like that. And I mean, the very end too, I was getting to the part with Jamie when he gets the letter from the coach, but right before he got it, he was about to go tell him great job for, passing, because that move made them win. I think he wouldn't have got that point if he didn't pass.
And by them, we mean the other team. This whole thing is a spoiler. You've been warned, y'all.
But it's amazing, and it's so sad too. You see why he's not a team player is because of his. I mean, a lot because of his father.
For his father to be yelling like so viciously at his grown adult son, saying like, I'm so upset with you that you pass the ball rather than be a star or whatever he was saying, like, rather than you make the goal.
Like, I know it is important for soccer players, like every point they get is like makes, I'm sure, their contract that much more.
Yeah.
And so I can see why he'd be upset.
That's a bad policy to have.
I know, but it's like
encourages the wrong things.
Exactly. And I love Ted Lasso. He is not only a fish out of water, but he's the exact kind of person that they need in this world. Like, we all need Ted Lassos in our life. Like, somebody to help us remember the real sport. Like, and I love how he's like softening everybody's heart, and they're all starting to feel a little bit more human and remind us of humanity and the real reason for these things. Like, I do think obviously there's a few parts he had his other coach partner had to tell him to kind of wake up. He said, you're going to sabotage this team.
It's true. If you don't bench your what's it called? Your captain because of your feelings. Yeah, you have to bench
Roy.
him. Yeah.
Because Roy was starting to, slow down because it's time for him to retire.
Yeah.
But
and a lot of the messages that the coach brings to them is about teamwork. He teaches about that, and that is such an important part of humanity. There's so many ways that people are in teams, even if they're not on a sports team. There's families, there's groups of friends, there's singing groups, there's bands, there's or people just working together, like you and your brothers to do your podcast. Like, there's so many ways or like society, larger societies or communities. The concepts of teamwork is it's dying these days because we're living in a world that's becoming more and more divisive rather than, hey, let's all help each other and be on the same team. I'm realizing now that's like a huge concept of improv too. So Jason Sudeikis was probably like super on board with all of this. But yeah, I loved it. And also one of my favorite things that he said about teamwork, because obviously he taught them things like pass the ball when it's helping the team and stuff like that. But I loved when they were having that sad moment at the end and he said, look around, share this sad. I'm not telling you to like be happy because you have each other. Be sad together. It is so much better to be sad with a group of people or with people than sad and lonely. And that's so true. And I love that we all can, in a sense, find our teams and create our teams, reach out to people so that we aren't alone. Because it is so important that we not be too alone in life. And sometimes, unfortunately, like it feels beyond our circumstances to change that. But I love that it really, to me, it really is a true concept that we're not meant to be alone as humans, and we have to make sure.
Are you quoting the Bible?
I know.
Man is not meant to be alone.
Yeah, to take care of ourselves, our mental health, and our well-being. It is important that we reach out and be a part of something bigger than just ourselves.
No, but I agree 100%, and I think we had a conversation about this the other day. Just this idea that like my favorite things, like I like to give a lot of credit to directors, and although they are kind of bringing and putting all the parts together to make things essentially come to life on the screen, it does have a lot to do with all the other pieces working the right way. Like, I'm starting to learn that some of my favorite movies, like Dawn of the Dead, it's because you got James Gunn writing the script. You got one of the Cronenbergs making the practical effects. You got Zack Snyder, who's great at working with the team to make things look very visually cool. But with his later stuff, I mean, when he's got all the power now and essentially is trying to do all the project just himself, like, you watch Army of the Dead and it's complete garbage. It's rubbish. I'm using the word rubbish because we're talking about a movie in British.
Oh,
That's my word. And oh, jeez. It's amazing to me, like, and this kind of happened at the end of my mission. I had this, like, vision of what makes our church work is when a ward, everybody is doing their part to make that word work, is like if everybody is doing their part. And suddenly you have this, like, fruitful, growing ward, and there's more people coming in, and everybody's involved. And then if you have another one that people aren't, and they're keeping to themselves or working alone, like, it's not going to thrive and it's not going to grow. And I've noticed that in, like, with all these videos, like, you know, you see the endless people that work on these projects. It's when everybody is collaborating together. So I don't know. It's just, it's so interesting, the idea of, like, teamwork and how important it is, because, like, literally this team, they were relying so heavily on, I want to call him Chappie. It's not
Jamie
to be their thing. I just, you know, Cameron plays football for high school, and he had a player, and he was essentially carrying that team, and they would just always pass to him. And the reason they lost state is because they essentially just, he wasn't a team player. It was like, they're gonna probably crucify me for that, saying that, but I doubt any of them listen to this. But I feel like so important that everybody is participating and doing their part. And it's just like, I feel like the best projects are these collaborated ones when you're able to work together. Like, you mentioned me and my brothers doing the podcast, like, yeah, but it's a miracle we've still been able to work together. I mean, we fight so much, so but it's so interesting. And I love this show. The fact that they work together, and the whole idea of teaching all these principles that we're kind of slowly falling away from, and, you know, getting more and more divided, and it's like everybody's working on their own thing. And I don't know, it's just so important that we work together.
I love it.
Beautiful thought.
Yeah, and it makes me think of, I love, ever since we started talking about our relationship as being on the same team, I think that that's such a great way to think about a marriage, is we're on the same team. I love it.
Would you recommend the show?
Oh, yeah, Chop.
Jeez. You're in a silly mood.
Yeah, yes. I would definitely recommend it. Unless, those who don't want to listen to the harsh language, then probably better not. But it's so good. I think Ted Lasso himself only curses like once the whole season. He is such a good guy.
Yeah.
We kept saying that. I feel like there were several episodes where we're like, oh, he's just such a great guy.
Yeah, he is. Oh, and I forgot to mention
assistant coach too.
Assistant coach, who's just, his name is Coach.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then I love his love for chess.
Yes.
And like, he was looking over at the girl that broke up with him play chess with somebody else.
His look is so funny.
And then you commented on how much you loved that they were singing karaoke.
Yes.
And I liked how you looked at him like, how could he be having an anxiety attack or panic attack while being at a karaoke place?
Did I say that?
No.
Oh.
I'm just being funny.
Also, him and tall lady, Rebecca, that's her name.
Oh, Rebecca, yeah.
Their whole reconciliation, her whole apology, and his whole forgiving her.
Oh,
amazing.
Powerful.
So good.
Yeah. And when they were arguing about Martin Scorsese's best film, and the lady's like, it's Mean Streets. And I'm like, no. I'm sorry. like, and somebody said Cape Fear. Like, I love Cape Fear, and I think it's one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films, but I highly doubt that's like a majority opinion. But I guess everybody kind of said a different thing. They were talking about Casino or Goodfellas being like his best film. It'd probably be Goodfellas, but I don't know. Raging Bull, Taxi Driver. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they didn't even mention that one. But anyways, I was just like, when she said Mean Streets, I'm kind of rolled my eyes. I don't know. Maybe something's wrong with me, but of all his films, I don't know. That lady's crazy.
You are so in your element right now.
Yeah.
Talking about this part that it's all over my head. I don't know any of these movies you're talking about, but I love watching you get worked up about it.
Yeah. Well, and I just wonder when I hear that, I'm like, is that like one of the writers in the writing room thinking that, or does he? I don't know. Just interested. And then, we forgot to mention her secretary.
Higgins. I was just about to. We're on the same page. We keep thinking of the same characters at the same time. Yes, Higgins. We love Higgins. He's funny.
Very funny. Oh my gosh. And then he
He's
grows
great.
that goatee.
Oh yeah, that was really funny. Just that one small moment. And what was his comment
My
about
wife
it?
hates it.
He said something funny about it, and then she's like, "Does your wife like it?" He's like, "No, she detests it."
Yep.
Yeah. And I love the friendship that blossoms between Keely and Rebecca. Such an odd
Yes.
pairing. They're like way different in age, but but I love how like kind of Rebecca is not so prideful that she's like unwilling to be friends with someone that's so much younger than her and into such different things than her, but rather she learns from her. She's like, okay, this girl's into like looks and modeling. I'm not obsessed with that, but yeah, I love that she's giving me advice on how to stand in a photo so that I don't feel so anxious.
Yeah, and we've already mentioned it, but it teaches so many good things. Like, it teaches forgiveness, which I feel like a lot of the world is forgetting. Just a lot of these older principles that you would watch in something like at the Andy Griffith Show. Like I said, that's why he's probably plucked directly out of it, because they're just old school principles that it's like, oh wow, like these are things we shouldn't forget because we're taught to hate and be mad. And I'm not going to lie, I mean, I do love a lot of movies that are about violence and revenge, but these are just principles that we shouldn't forget.
Yeah, these are
And
to be applied to real life. Not the revenge movies, but these movies.
So it's once again, it was so refreshing because it's a new modern day show, which you just don't see. Like we watched Catfish, and it was refreshing to watch that, but it was made a while back.
True.
When people did treat each other better.
True.
And so
it's really cool to see an example of people treating each other well in these days.
Yeah, it was very, very awesome. And it's actually really sad now that I think about it, that the show portrays him as the only one in this world in which is that sweet, innocent, good person.
Know, but
it's like, wow.
It's contagious. If you are consistent and persistent in killing with kindness, you will murder people with your kindness, and they will become zombies that are nice now.
That was like the best part of the beginning, is when he's like, stop playing mind games with me. Like, I love every time he's being every time he's being super nice to them, and he's like, oh no, I appreciate everything you do, and he's like, stop saying that. Or when Roy doesn't want to go talk to Jamie and become friends with him, and they have this like, they're just so mad at each other all the time. And Coach is like, I'm not going to talk to him, and he's like, I hate what you're doing right now. So great.
I love when at the end, the last episode, when Jamie's on the other team, but he's like getting weirded out by like, why does Coach Ted, because he believed at this point that Ted wanted him gone, and that was the reason that he switched teams. He doesn't know that that's not what it was. It was Rebecca being bad. But I love the moment when Jamie, who's Jamie looking at? Oh, he's looking at Roy. Him and Roy are like staring each other off, because Roy's sitting on the bench, and Jamie's on the field like staring at him like or whatever. And then Coach Lasso comes into the camera shot, and he's like the biggest grin and the biggest wave. Hi, Jamie. And then Jamie does his whole like weirded out by it.
Well, it kind of is throwing him off because he's trying to be like in the zone, and he's trying to essentially, he just wants there to be that contention and that rival, and essentially he doesn't want to feel like not necessarily feel, but he wants a good excuse and reason to dominate and be like, oh, see, we shouldn't be friends. And that's why I think the ending is so ingenious that you are literally, I mean, obviously you're still rooting for Ted Lasso's team and you want them to win, but the fact that Jamie wins, like, it's not a devastation because you see Jamie's, and it's even that much more powerful that Jamie was taken from their own team, because obviously you wanted like Roy and their team to just destroy them. But then after seeing the ending and everything Jamie goes through, and you realize, wow, Jamie finally learned an amazing thing to be a team player and they won because of it. Like, that is such a powerful, that is an amazing ending.
Yes. It brings home what Ted Lasso was saying the whole series of, I don't care if they win or lose. Because to him, the success is in people like Jamie changing to become team players. And the success is in the changes, internal changes that his team went through, and including that they are becoming more of a team with each other. That to him is success. Obviously, he was still sad and disappointed about losing, but it still brings home, like, we see, like, we, the audience, are rejoicing and so excited and so touched by that moment when Jamie makes that decision. And then we see just how hard it was for him to make that decision, because we see the dad yelling at him, and then we see the coach's "I'm so proud of you" letter. Ugh.
And it just makes me think of Andy from The Office when he's like, Dwight may have won the war, but I will win the bigger war. But it seriously is. Like, Ted Lasso won
the bigger goal, the bigger challenge, which was to help these people internally be more outward, focused people, and more kind people that love themselves and each other better.
Yeah, well, it's like, I'm thinking of The Chosen because we're watching it right now, but the whole idea of, like, teach a man to fish and, or give a man a fish and you only feed him for a day, but teach a man to fish and you can feed him for a lifetime, And so it's just this idea of essentially changing who they are, their raw essence, and what they can become. And suddenly you've got a changed person, somebody that'll go on to affect other people and make a difference, other than just simply giving them that win. I mean, if they did win it, I don't think it would have been nearly as impactful. I mean, I don't know. It would have been amazing and fun, but it's not something I feel like I would have thought of as much, because at the end of this, I was just thinking of everything. I mean, I was just thinking about Jamie. I was thinking about Ted and everything he did for this team. And you're thinking about everything that they went through together, and what a beautiful show.
Seriously. Also, I really love the Nigerian football, player on this. To me, it's soccer. The one with the most lines.
Football?
Yes, I love the whole part when he's like, because that whole episode when they think that one practice room or whatever is haunted, and so everyone's like doing all this stuff to get rid of the haunted ghost or whatever. And he's talking to Rebecca and he's like, yeah, everyone thinks that I'm like super into it because I'm African. And she's like, well, are you? He's like, oh yeah, totally. But I just don't want them to like, pin me as like the go-to person for this kind of thing. If he's like, oh, but yeah, definitely I am. I'm super into it. Or something. That was funny. Oh, I just loved him. Oh, and he's such a good guy. So that's an exception. Ted Lasso is a really good guy, but also that guy's a really good guy. And also the assistant coach.
Oh, and Rojas.
From the very beginning. Yes. And then I want to talk about Rojas. Oh my gosh. I was like laughing and smiling so much every time he was on the screen and you were teasing me for it. That's all we need to say. He is just great. He's so genuine in his optimism and positivity, and everything he said just made me laugh so much. I loved it.
Yeah, I love his energy. I love how much that kind of bothers Roy.
I don't know if we'll end up watching the second season. The whole setup for the second season was just like, will they get re-promoted back to this status and the divisions and leagues or whatever that they want to be at? And
I'm sure we'll finish it eventually. It's just there's so many shows right now.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's the best setup for a storyline, because they took away the conflict with Rebecca softening her heart. So it's like, what will there be a consistent conflict, or what will it be? I don't know. Well, if we watch it, then maybe we'll talk about it again. Maybe not, because that first season was just perfect, and I'm fine to leave it at that, basically.
Bye.
All right. Bye, y'all.